Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So in today's video, we are going to be giving an update on the Social Security increase that has a great chance of happening via the Social Security Fairness Act passing. Right now, it's already passed through the House, and in the Senate it does have 62 co-sponsors out of these 60 votes that it would need to pass. It just comes down to whether or not Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is actually going to put this bill on the floor for a vote before the end of this year. If he does so, we can't expect to receive that massive increase next year in 2025. So we are going to be covering an update on that bill. We're going to be looking at two different lawmakers. Both are going to be Democrats. One is going to be for this bill and one is going to be against this bill. And we're going to be looking at what they're saying. But before we go ahead and dive into it for today, if you would like to receive up to $9,000 in free stocks or $9,000 in free cash, in a pinned comment below, I will be leaving a link to Webull. All you have to do is once you click on that link is just sign up for a free account and then simply deposit at least 1 penny. At that point in time, Webull will be sending you 3 free stocks worth all the way up to $9,000. Okay, so diving right into it for today. Once again, the Social Security Fairness Act just passed in the House last week, which means that it now heads to the Senate. We have 62 out of 100 senators throwing their support behind this bill. Keep in mind it only needs 60 to pass, so it has more than enough to pass. But we're going to be looking at a couple of different clips in today's video. For the first one we're going to be looking at is going to be by Representative Abigail Spanberger. She is a Democrat. She is for this bill. Let's go ahead and look to see what she has to say.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today as the representative for tens of thousands of Virginians whose earned retirement benefits have been slashed by the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset for far, far too long. And I urge my colleagues, 330 of whom have co-sponsored this legislation, to join us in passing the Social Security Fairness Act this evening and put an end to this theft. For generations, hardworking Americans have been promised that if you work hard, you save, you contribute to your Social Security, you will be afforded a secure retirement with your earned benefits. But the WEP and the GPO, two misguided provisions that were added to the Social Security Act in 1983, have denied Americans the retirement security they worked for and expected to receive. Today, the WEP steals benefits from more than 2 million retired Americans, more than 45,000 Virginians, who both paid into Social Security for long enough to earn these benefits and worked in the public sector during their careers. These are firefighters who worked a second job to make ends meet, police officers who began a second career after leaving the force, teachers who took a summer job to cover the bills and buy school supplies. And they are federal employees who went on to work in the private sector. They are all receiving a fraction of their earned Social Security benefits. And the GPO denies benefits to more than 750,000 Americans and nearly 8,000 Virginians, people who dedicated their careers to public service, who were then robbed of the survivor benefits that they should have received while dealing with the death of a spouse. These Americans, they've been punished simply because they chose to selflessly serve our communities and our country. And I have heard from thousands of Virginians about this issue. Francis, a retired police officer in Virginia, is seeing his benefits slashed by the WEP. Richard, a veteran who served our nation first in the military, then in civil service, and then in the private sector, he sees nearly half of his Social Security benefits stolen. And that's been the case for the past 15 years, even though he started working when he was 16 years old and he started paying into Social Security.
Okay, so obviously she's for it if you're a police officer, if you're a teacher or a firefighter, and you work in those careers, but then you also work in the private sector and also pay into the Social Security Trust Fund via the payroll tax. It's hard to make a case that these people should be penalized just because they're also receiving a pension as well. So she's obviously very much for this bill. And again, if this bill were to pass, it could mean for certain folks increases in their benefits by anywhere between like $300 and all the way up to $600+ per month. This would be a significant amount of money. And then here we have John Larson. He is also a Democrat, and he also has a bill for Social Security reform, but he's actually against this bill. Let's go ahead and look to see what he has to say.
Imagine, my dear friend knows this, 5 million of our fellow Americans, and they're in Texas and they're in Connecticut, get below poverty level checks from their government. So it's great that you have a proposal for WEP, but 5 million people currently on Social Security get below poverty level checks from the wealthiest nation in the world and from a country that's had a program in place, but Congress hasn't acted in over 50 years. 5 million. Most of them are women, and most of them are women of color. Then there's more than 33 million, who the only benefit that they have, the only thing that keeps them out of poverty is Social Security. And Congress hasn't acted since 1971? And these people will be hurt by this proposal. Benefit cuts in a time of inflation. Ask your constituents back home, Mr. Speaker. And these cuts that will take place because Congress hasn't stepped up and said we need to fund this program, not cut it. Some may argue, well, you know, back in '83 they did do something. But yeah, what they did is they raised the age. Another great proposal on the other side. For every year you raise the age, that's a 7% cut in benefits. So let's raise the age to age 70, the Republican Study Committee says. And what does that do? Cuts benefits by 21%. Aren't you glad that you worked hard and invested and put your money aside so that you could find out that, yeah, well, what we're going to do is raise the age so you work longer, and as you're living longer, we expect that you'll get less in retirement, not more. It makes no sense whatsoever. We need to come together as a Congress and vote to enhance the nation's #1 anti-poverty program for the elderly and for our children.
Okay, so Larson is against this bill because basically it's not covered. It just, is going to make it so there are more funds leaving the Social Security Trust Fund because there are going to be people receiving more in benefits, but we're not offsetting that by ensuring that there's more money flowing into the trust fund via taxation. Now, John Larson actually has his own bill, and it would also do the same thing where it would repeal the WEP, it would also repeal the GPO, it would also increase benefits across the board by 2%, and would also increase the special minimum benefits, so some people would be receiving increases like $400 to $500. If they're receiving below the federal poverty wage right now, they would actually be receiving 25% above the federal poverty wage, and he would offset all these increases by raising taxes on Americans who earn above $400,000 per year, because right now you're only paying into the Social Security Trust Fund via the payroll tax on the first like $180,000 or something like that you earn. So someone like Taylor Swift or another person who earns a great amount of money, she's only paying taxes into the Social Security Trust Fund on the first $180,000 or so that she earns. Anything above that is no longer taxed and no longer going into the Social Security Trust Fund. So he's saying that you should pay taxes on the first $180K or so that you earn. Then there's a donut hole between $180K and $400K where you don't pay anything. And then once again, above $400,000, you would once again have to pay that tax into the Social Security Trust Fund. So he's against this bill. But again, in the Senate, this bill has 62 co-sponsors. It would just need 60 votes to pass. So there is a strong chance of this bill passing. We'll just have to wait and see, though. Leave your thoughts and comments below. Are you for this bill? Are you against it? Would love to read your thoughts and comments below. But that's all we have for today's video, and I will see you in the next one.